Welcome to the See Me, Be Me podcast. I'm Nile Henry.
And I'm Blair Henry.
And we're two brothers who set out on a mission to make motorsport and STEM careers more diverse, affordable, and inclusive. We are the founders of the Blair Project.
This podcast series delves into the minds of inspirational individuals who come from ordinary and often humble backgrounds, but through their belief, dogged determination, and never give up attitude, have managed to overcome academic, social, or mental challenges to achieve their dream careers.
Our guests will share their life lessons that you too can apply to your own. We hope their stories will inspire you to go further, aim higher, and accept nothing less than you deserve. Your ambition, your purpose is all within, and we're here to help you unlock it. The planet of possibilities are endless.
You know who made it.
Hello and welcome to the See Me, Be Me podcast. Today we are joined by Nadine. Welcome to the See Me, Be Me podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So Nadine, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started on your journey as a marshal?
I can, yes. So quite a while ago, it was over 20 years ago now, a friend of mine heard it being talked about on local radio, actually, and said, you'd be interested in this. This would be something you'd want to do. Go along, find out what it's all about. Prior to that, I didn't really know much about motorsport. I used to watch Formula One with my dad on the telly on a Sunday afternoon. He used to work away from home during the week, so it was only when he'd be at home at the weekend I'd get time with him. So sat in front of the telly watching Formula One. That was all I ever thought motorsport was. But I made a call from this a conversation that my friend heard on the local radio, and went along to a taster day at Oulton Park in Cheshire. I was living in Leeds at the time, so it's a couple of hours journey across, but super excited. There was me and one other person who went on what they call a taster day, so got shown round Oulton, around the different marshals posts, saw some of the qualifying action in the morning. It was just a club meeting. I can't actually remember the organising club at the time, but it was just a club meeting. And then I was out on post with a group of marshals for the afternoon. Had a TVR land at my feet, which was quite exciting. I think I fell over as well. I did a good Superman impression and fell on the floor, got up, took a bow in front of the crowd, carried on. Driver was a bit shaken up, hit the barrier and thought the car was on fire, but had actually just set the onboard fire extinguisher off. So it wasn't actually on fire. He got out, but was a bit shaken up. Everyone else ran off to the car, and I was left with the driver. And I kind of thought, I don't know what to do. So I just talked to him, just made sure he was okay. And I thought, this is great. Can I come back and do it again? So yeah, that was it. Me, 26 years ago now. A newbie on the bank, but loving it ever since.
And that whole experience was on your first day?
Yeah.
Wow. And I suppose, you said that how you got the love of it was that you used to watch it when you were little with your father. Was he involved in motorsport, or was he just a fan?
Not at all. Just a fan. So I'd been to Formula One. So I was actually at Donington that infamous year when Ayrton was there. But I was there on the Saturday with the qualifying. And my mum and dad went to the race on the Sunday. So they got wet through and had no clue what was going on because they couldn't understand the commentary. I sat at home, watched it all on the telly, told them what had happened, basically. And I'd been to Silverstone a couple of times, been to also in Germany. I actually was based in Germany as part of my university degree. And a friend of mine also was into Formula One. So my parents came over, her parents came over. We all went en masse to Hockenheim. So that was really my only interest or even knowledge of motorsport was really from the telly. and Formula One. So a bit of touring cars, I guess, I picked up on the telly occasionally. There'd be Motorsport Mondial or whatever it was called, very early mornings to say something about motorsport, bit about rallying, but I didn't really pick up any connection with that. But yeah, no family connection whatsoever to do with motorsport at all.
And you were mentioning with your interest was with your dad watching Formula One on weekends and whatnot. But did you have any specific role models who just inspired you in a way to become a marshal within motorsport itself?
Not really. I really knew nothing about it at all. And my friend, she was literally just listening to local radio, and they happened to be talking to a marshal. He knew the presenter, and they just decided to have a conversation similar to this, kind of just have a conversation about motorsport
Yeah.
marshalling. So I really went along just to find out more, because I just thought, oh, you must need loads of qualifications, you must have to give up loads of time. I've got a new job, I haven't got the time to do this. I had all the excuses in the book that I think I've heard ever since from everybody as to why not to do it, but knew nothing. Literally didn't realize that it was all volunteers, didn't realize that um, you start from knowing nothing at all and stuff landing at your feet, and dealing with it, to all the other roles that are involved, all the other volunteers. So not just marshals, but scrutineers, clerks. I had no clue, absolutely no idea at all. Just thought these events happened and lots of people were involved, and presumed they were paid. So had no idea that you could get involved. And when it was kind of like, oh yes, you can do this, I thought, oh, okay, Oulton Park, yeah, that sounds quite good. But you could do this at Formula One. I was like, really? I could actually be doing the same thing. That's crazy. That's insane. That's not possible. That isn't how it works, kind of thing. And then obviously I've learned that is exactly how it works. So no exact role models. I really didn't know anybody in motorsport at all. Um, I just took the plunge. I think I kind of walked in thinking, well, I don't know what this is. I don't know what it's about. I don't know what I need to commit
Mm,
to,
yeah.
what I need to be able to do. But I quite like the sound of being around cars. I like cars. They're noisy and I like them. So let's give it a go, really.
And then getting
So,
started in the world of motor racing, I mean, it's very male dominated. So, what was it? What I imagine getting started, there wasn't a lot of other female marshals around at that time. So what was it like getting involved? Let's say in a mostly like male dominated sport, or male dominated just sport or
environment.
industry essentially.
I think I've always been a bit of a tomboy, to be perfectly honest. So I have a brother who's 3 years older than me, and everything he did, I attempted, which I couldn't do in lots of different ways because I wasn't able to. But I've always kind of like gone, well, it's just something I can do. Why not? I remember
Mm,
at school, we had a brilliant supply teacher come into my primary school. So I must have been, I don't know, I probably was about 10, 11. And he decided to bring an engine into school, which was not the normal thing to bring in, but literally a car engine came into school, and he started to explain things. And I honestly can't remember any of it from back then, but I was just fascinated. I just thought, oh, that's how things work. And he said, well, you can take it apart. I was like, this is great. So that was just me. I would get involved in anything that I could. I like to understand how things worked. Um, so I always was interested in a variety of different things that maybe people aren't so much interested in, and maybe girls aren't looked at as being so interested in. So I didn't do engineering. I did business studies as a degree, but then I don't think I had the engineering expectation. I don't think I wanting to go down that route. Um, but it was just I just was fascinated. And then I think once the more I found out about marshalling, the more I kind of went, well, why can't I do that?
yeah.
And yes, there were females around in different roles. And I saw some who were flag marshals, but I didn't really fancy flagging. I saw people in the pit lane, start line, and again I thought, no, I want to actually see them race. I want to actually be out on the circuit watching them go round, because that's I'm a spectator to start with.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
that's where I feel like that's where I want to be. So although there were females around, I guess not many, and not many out on the bank, as it were. but more now, thankfully.
And I suppose there'll be some listeners who'll be wondering, you know what, that sounds like a load of fun. How do I get started as a marshal? You know, what are the steps and procedures that one must go down in order to become a marshal?
So it's fairly simple, actually. It is a little complicated just because there's so many things involved. I guess once you start opening the lid that's Motorsport UK, you start finding out all sorts of different things and where to go, and it can get a bit complicated. But um, I guess the best thing to do is to decide what kind of motorsport you want to get involved in. So is it racing? Is it rallying? Is it karting? Is it hill climb sprints? Kind of, or if you don't know at all, that's fine. Um, and the taster day that I went on 26 years ago, we still run taster days for people. So if you really don't know, so like me, absolutely have no idea what is involved or what's going on at all, sign up for a taster day. Most venues, most circuits, particularly around the country, will run taster days in some form or another throughout the whole racing season. So you can get the same experience as me, maybe not a TVR land at your feet, but something might happen hopefully on your first day, and take it from there. So as an organizing club, the event will help you to do that. Equally, the Marshals Club, the BMMC, also have plenty of contacts and plenty of help to enable people to go down that path. So once you've done that taster day, what the next steps are, how to get Motorsport UK registration, how to get kit, where to get things from, how to volunteer for events, all of that kind of stuff is really comes along with you first saying, I'd like to do this. And there's lots of people who'll help.
Excellent, excellent. Oh, do you have a question, Blair?
Oh, I was just going to just expand on that. So, I was going to say, what types of like marshalling opportunities are available? Like the different types of marshalling opportunities.
So everything really. We say that the only event you can't do in your first year as a marshal is the Grand Prix, because they're not going to accept trainees, which you'd understand really. But any other event, so any hill climb, sprint, rally, race event, karting event that's under Motorsport UK rules and regulations, you could be marshalling that. You could be marshalling that this Saturday if you wanted to. We could find an event somewhere near to you that you could go to. And it's more a case of, we just need to get you signed on, get you tickets, tell you where you need to be, what time you need to be there, and then the rest kind of falls into place. I like to see us as one big orange family, so it doesn't matter where you go in the country, there's a friendly face in orange somewhere who'll be out there to look after you.
Now, Nadine, you started your career back in '97 as as a marshal and working at trackside, and then you went on to do recruitment, so recruiting new marshals, and then I believe you became the club secretary for Oulton Park.
I
I
came,
believe.
the Northwest Regional Secretary, yes, for the Northwest region.
Yeah.
So yes, I got invited onto that committee. I think they realised that I was quite well organised as a person, so they wanted someone who could organise the committee and take notes at meetings and things.
And now you become chair at Oulton Park,
Well,
correct?
I am the national chair of the
National
British
chair.
Motorsport Marshals Club. So
Yes.
yes, I've been the national chair for the last 7 years. And yeah, so that was quite a journey to get there, really.
So in terms of the skills that you've learned along the way, what have been the three most essential skills if someone was to follow in your similar footsteps, starting from being a marshal and working their way up to hopefully one day becoming chair? What are the three essential skills that somebody would need in order to do your role?
I think the main thing for me is to never forget where you started. Um, Having been on the bank, I'm still on the bank. I still go out every weekend and marshal whenever I can. It's that remembering that's where I started, so what it's like for somebody else to start. Also being able to communicate with all different types of people and organisations. So as a consequence of me being chair, I sit on a number of committees at Motorsport UK.
Yeah.
So I see how the regulations and the rules are formed and be part of that process. So having a
Mhm.
broad understanding of the sport, I guess, is a second. And third, being open to suggestion. So um, people coming up with ideas and not saying that's never going to work or we've tried that,
Yeah.
but try anything, and look at things in a different way. I kind of obviously took over from somebody else when I was chair, and I have my way of working with people. So we have a board as part of the club. And as I think I remember saying in my first board meeting, I said, I might be the chair, but you are all the experts in your field. So I'm not going to do everything. Um, the expectation is you all are going to do whatever you need to do. And I'm going to be the person who'll put my head above the parapet. I'll be the person who'll say stuff if it needs to be said. I will walk into meetings with that agenda if that is necessary. But you are all the people who are going to be doing all the work and taking the credit for it. I'm not the person who's taking the credit. I'm just the spokesperson for the club and on your behalf. Um, so being open to whatever other suggestions that other people come up with, I think, is the third one.
I was going to touch on Nadine in terms of like back in 2003, just running the taster days at Oulton Park. How easy was it for you to recruit marshals? Because I believe you were saying earlier that a lot of people, when they think about racing, they just think about the drivers and just like, let's say, Formula One, the cars, the drivers, and whatnot. So, how easy was it for you to bring people on board to take the roles of marshalling?
I think it's the same now as it always has been, really. I think firstly, the same as me, people don't understand that they're all volunteers,
Yeah,
and that anybody can do it. Um, Anybody with any abilities or otherwise expertise can get involved in marshalling. And everyone starts from the same place, so everyone starts as a trainee, regardless of what your background is, because you are a trainee marshal. You may be running a company, you may be a high flying executive, but you've never been a marshal, and getting the head round that bit of the process is a completely different ball game. So I think it's really important for people to understand that you are a volunteer.
yeah.
Um, you therefore get to choose where you go, and how often, frequency, um, and therefore getting that message across is always what's difficult. And I think that's always been the same, ongoing. But in terms of recruiting, we use lots of different ways to recruit. So we have our website, which encourages people to apply for taster days. So people are just can literally fill in a form, and we will send them to the relevant region, who will help them get involved in whatever area they want to get involved in. We hold various at events themselves, so something like the touring car meetings. We do have a recruitment tent, so we do sign people up again for taster days, and obviously the people who come to something like touring cars may not be local to that event. They may have travelled far and wide, so we can put them in touch with people local to where they live. We also do things like autosport, where we also recruit. And then we have a number of ambassadors who are absolutely key to what we do. And just a word, just the occasional comment is all it takes sometimes. So we have a number of ambassadors who are commentators. So we do encourage them to tell everybody all the time how brilliant the marshals are and what we're doing whenever anything's happening on the circuit, particularly talk up the marshals. So I have to give shouts out really to Ben Edwards, who is our president of the club currently. So Ben obviously used to commentate a lot on Formula One. and now does other events around the country. He was at Goodwood last weekend for the revival. Also, Paul O'Neill, who does a lot of work on ITV4 for touring cars, and he has come and done a taste today, and he has been a marshal, so he knows and understands exactly what's involved and what's not involved. And no, you don't always get a free breakfast, which he was most disappointed about. But they're absolutely key. And we have a guy called Mark Werrell, who commentates on a lot of different club events around the country. And he started as a marshal. So he was a marshal for, don't want to say how many years, but a number of years. And now he's a full-time commentator. So he completely understands what it is to be a marshal, and therefore he can explain and talk through incidents, and everything is exactly what the marshals are doing. So it's really, really good, and obviously encouraging other people to say that they can get involved, and that's key. And a number of drivers, we do have a number of drivers who are ambassadors, and whenever they're on the podium, they always thank the marshals as well. So that's always encouraging.
Now, so in terms of Nadine, in terms of your career, then, how has what you've learned, the transferable skills that you've learned being a marshal, have they been able to relate to your day-to-day working life as well, your day job?
I was going to say it works both ways. I think I'm as a day job, I'm currently a logistics and warehouse manager. I've been involved in supply chain for a long time, so my planning skills have always been around. And I guess the important thing of that transfers both ways is dealing with people.
Mm.
So particularly, obviously, when it comes to marshalling, I don't know who I'm going to be on post with, um, and I don't know what skills they've got
Yeah.
until I meet them. And I don't know what their day jobs are either. So it's kind of a bit of a very quick 5 minute at the start of the day, check out who everybody is, how much experience they've got, and then throughout the course of the day, learn more about those people. So literally having conversations with people and understanding what makes them tick, what they can do, what they can't do, how we'll deal with an incident if it happens. Um, so I think that works both ways. So equally, from a work perspective, um, thinking around new recruits into my team at work, thinking about their skill set, it kind of like makes me think more about, well, actually, they don't need to have a lot of experience. Um, they may have certain skills that are really useful, and equally, they may be able to learn new skills, and learn skills in a different way. So I think that is really, really important, and it works both ways. So that human contact, that human understanding, is huge. And I think from my personal perspective, I think me being able to do something like marshalling switches me off from work. So I also have that mental capacity to literally forget that I work sometimes. I'm so involved in what's happening at motorsport, and then somebody asks me, "So, what do you do as a day job?" And I kind of think, "Oh, yes, I've just been brought back into reality." And it's kind of like it's great. So, from a mental health perspective, it's fantastic because it's something completely different. It doesn't relate anything to what I do at work in lots of ways. Um, so to be able to come and do some volunteering really helps from a mental health perspective as well.
Mm.
I just wanted to touch on next to Dean. I saw on your bio you were the first ever volunteer in history to be presented a trophy on the Formula One podium for the 2022 British Grand Prix. I
I
do
was.
remember that race very well, and you handed the second place trophy to Sergio Perez. Could you take us back through that experience?
I can. It wasn't a blur. It might seem like it was a blur, but I tried to make sure that I enjoyed the whole experience and took it all on board. But um, I guess it was very short notice. A lot of people don't realize that I literally got a phone call 4 days beforehand to say,
Oh,
"Can you come?" To which point I was like, I think I'm busy. I think I'm at Donington Park this weekend. Why do you want me at Silverstone? It was those kind of questions, to which it was like, no, we really want you to be here. Okay. So it came from David Richards and Hugh Chambers from Motorsport UK.
Yep.
So they then had to put a request into the FIA to ask if it would be possible for this to happen. I didn't realize, but there are set people who normally give out the trophies in terms of what their day job is, I guess. So the third place is always given out by the chair of the regional association. So for the UK, the regional association is Motorsport UK. So David Richards would be giving out that trophy, third place. He said he was willing to give up the third place so that I could do it. And the FIA came back and said, no, we'll sort it. So he got to give out third, which was Lewis Hamilton. And I got to give out the second to Sergio. And as a consequence, I was with Motorsport UK all day. I even did the grid walk and got interviewed by Martin Brundle. So that was quite funny because he really didn't know who I was. And I've spoken to Martin since and he's apologized. So that was quite funny. But the actual podium itself is a really strange place to be. It's we had a briefing beforehand so that we knew which order each person was going to be presenting in, where we needed to stand. We were told where we would be standing. And we were actually on the podium when the drivers were being interviewed by Jenson Button underneath. But we couldn't hear anything. The way the sound and the microphones and speakers were set up, it was all set up for the sound to go out to the crowd. So we were literally like we were in our own little vortex, really, and just couldn't hear anything at all. So very strange place to be. And I made a comment to David at one point, and I said, I think Lewis has just thanked the crowd, because he did as is normal. Whenever he's interviewed, he always thanks the fans. And there was a massive cheer that went up around the grandstand. So I was like, yeah, he must have just thanked the fans, because that's the normal reaction. But we couldn't tell. It's not until I played it back on video that I actually realized what he'd said. So that was that point. And then when we were standing there, if you know Silverstone, so it's right at the end of the wing where the podium is, and there's catch fencing, so there's spectator fencing around the circuit side. So there's basically the podium, the pit lane, and then the circuit, and between the pit lane and the circuit there is catch fencing. Well, there's a photographer's pen that is there, and I had no idea, and there must have been, without a joke, 30-40 photographers in that pen to obviously take the photos of the podium. And I could see some of the photographers that I knew, which was quite funny, because I thought I should take pictures of you standing there waiting to take pictures of us, because this is like really surreal. So then when obviously the drivers come up and the ceremony and everything, and Carlos's first win as well. So there was a lot of firsts that happened that day. And then they'd said as soon as the trophy presentations are done, they will do the champagne, and you will want to leave before the champagne is sprayed. And I'm at the wrong end of the podium. So where I was standing, there is only one way off the podium, and that is in front of the drivers. So literally at the point the commentator goes, and now, and I know the next word is going to be the champagne, I ran for it. I literally ran across in front of them, so that they literally opened the champagne just as I got out the way, so I missed it, thankfully.
So I take it Dave and the other representative got wet.
No, well, David had been very clever that he'd given the trophy, the third place, to Lewis. So I'd done mine, obviously, to Sergio. He did his to Lewis, shook hands with Carlos and Sergio, and then exited the stage to the other side. So he was already on the other side. And I was like, oh, I'm on my own here. I'm going to have to make a run for it. So tried to take it all in, because I thought it's such an important occasion, and I'm representing all the volunteers. So that's what David and Hugh wanted, was somebody to represent the whole volunteering community. Um, so I was very, very honoured to be given that, to do that. I sit as chair of the Volunteer Officials Committee as part of Motorsport UK, and that was one of the reasons why they asked for it to be me to do that presentation. So yeah, just an amazing, amazing experience, and it continued afterwards because social media went completely crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I was getting friend requests from marshals all around the world, which is just awesome. And that was just like, this is really good. And and people saying, we need to do this. We need to do this for other events. It shouldn't just be Formula One. Why don't marshals present trophies at other events? And there have been since other events where marshals have presented trophies, which is just fantastic.
Fantastic.
Just to get that recognition and realization that, yeah, actually we are there all the time. So just nice as a thank you to the marshals to get that recognition is fantastic.
No, it's no, that's a really, really great gesture, because like you've mentioned, the work that you guys definitely do, and you're doing it out of your own time. You're not getting paid to do it. So it's a great thing that Motorsport UK and we're able to give back and just say, you know what, rather than us be there, let's give an opportunity elsewhere. So and I reckon that'll be something you'll be telling people way later down the line. And back in the day, I was at Silverstone 22 handing a trophy.
I have the official photo on my phone, so if anybody asks, I can show it straight away. It's kind of like, yeah, there's the photo, there's the proof.
Is that you and Sergio Perez? What are you doing there?
In fact, it was funny because I actually was at a taster day at Oulton the week after. And so I actually run the taster days at Oulton, following me being on one so many years ago. So I actually take people around and show them everything. And I kind of said, and just so that people know, yes, it was me on the podium last weekend. And a few of them went, I thought I recognized you from somewhere. So yeah, that was me on the telly.
Excellent. Now, one of the things I want to come onto the topic around is about equality, diversity, and inclusion, especially women in motorsport. Now, you sit on various committees, and one of them is being about EDI, especially women in motorsport. Can you tell us, why is that? Why is EDI in motorsport so important?
Well, for me, it's a case of I think when I ever did anything, I'm quite a strong-willed person, and I've always thought, if I can do something, why can't I do something? And I even remember when I was thinking about becoming the chair, that somebody said, "Well, why not?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, good point." So I think everybody should be given that opportunity. There shouldn't be any barriers. There should be no reason why somebody can't do something. And as volunteers, I always say to people, well, the only restriction is you need to be over 11, and that's just obviously for safeguarding issues. We have parent responsibility between 11 and 18. You need to be over 11, and be able to stand and talk and move around. Really, well, not even stand, but you just need to be able to function. There's no restrictions in any other ways, and I'm very passionate in believing that if somebody wants to do something, they should, and we should be able to make it possible. Whatever reasons they think they can't, or because they don't see somebody else like them doing it, that shouldn't be a restriction to stop them from doing it themselves.
Do you feel that enough is being done, let's say, at the grassroots level of motorsport to promote more opportunities for females to get involved?
I think there are a lot of things being done. I think there's always more chance for opportunities. There's some great initiatives that have happened. I think it was East Anglia Motor Club. They had some great initiatives to get women involved across the board. So not just as volunteers, but as drivers as well. But I think it's always going to be a case of, with volunteers generally, it's a case of we'll take anyone.
Yeah.
A volunteer is a volunteer for us. So there's no restrictions. But I wouldn't say there's anything particularly that says we're actively recruiting females or anything else. So it's more a case of just getting that word out there, that it is possible to do, and making sure that all groups are included in that, to make sure that everybody realizes that just because they haven't seen somebody like them being involved doesn't mean that they can't do it themselves.
I wanted to touch on Nadine, just how we first introduced. So we were first introduced to via David Williams. Just shout out to David if he sees the episode. But he introduced us for you to get involved with our Proto EV STEM challenge, and you were really instrumental in helping us to find free marshals to take part in our free events earlier when we did a Proto EV challenge in London. So I just wanted to ask, what were your initial thoughts when we first basically came to you with the idea of the Proto EV STEM challenge, and what are your thoughts on, like, say, like EV motorsport in general?
Okay, so in terms of volunteering, I think volunteering in any way is great. So
Yeah,
if it means that people can get involved in different things, I think
yeah,
we should always open up that opportunity. So not just your project. So just for an example, we also help out at some crazy races events, which are downhill soapbox challenges.
yeah,
So no engines involved whatsoever, but a bit of a laugh. So we try and get volunteers to get involved in anything that they can. So whether it's motorsport registered or not, our insurance as a club should cover most other activities. So it does enable us to put people forward to help out with different things. And I think in terms of your project itself, I think it's a great idea to get kids involved. I think that's the best way to get people to do anything, is to get the kids involved. So hence why I said about volunteering, you can start at 11.
yeah.
It quite often is the child who encourages the parent, because it's the child who wants to come along. And then the parent stays as well. So always great. And things like FIA Girls on Track. So another absolutely superb scheme to get females, but particularly young girls involved in motorsport. So your project is another way of getting young people involved, and I think that's absolutely key, to anything, is to get the young involved. If you can get them early, get them interested in anything. That they then latch onto and then want to continue to do, is great. So I think that it's a great project that you have, and we're happy to help.
Thank you.
So, Nadine, I've got a question that I'd like to ask. Well, it's kind of two questions in one. What is your favorite race series to actually like marshal? And if you could choose your favorite race that you've marshaled, what would it be?
Okay. Um, Race series, that's going to be difficult. Um, I'm a bit of a fan of historic stuff, so I quite like events as opposed to particular series. So I have to say, Goodwood Revival is an absolute awesome event. They obviously change the races that are there each year, but there's some that are there time and time again. And the St Mary's Trophy is just the best race going. It's For those who don't know, the St Mary's Trophy is a split race. We have part one, part two. Part one is normally for current or very experienced professional drivers, and part two is normally the owners of the car. So you could have people like Gordon Shedden, Matt Neal, Tom Christensen, driving around in 1950s, 1960s cars, um, and having an absolute whale of a time. and being so competitive. It's just a phenomenon. It's for 25 minutes, but it's just fantastic that they just go hammer and tongs in these cars that were built for racing, but probably not in the way that they race them. and then they hand them back to the owners, who then race them again on day two. So I have to say that that's kind of like, I do love the old cars. And that event, Goodwood Revival, if people have not been or not seen it on the television, it is just a completely different event to anything you could ever imagine, but is superb, and the racing is always fantastic.
Do you know what? I've not been to Goodwood, but I have watched it plenty of times on the television, and the noise you hear from the TV, it's fantastic. But it's never the same when you actually hear it in person. Because I remember when I went to my first Formula One race, this was probably about 2010 or 2011, when they used to have the old V8 engines. And they were so noisy, but so beautiful at the same time, to the point where loads of people are putting their fingers in the ears, and you're almost like, I'm going to go deaf if I hear any more of this. But it's still so beautiful. Whereas now today, there's still a little bit of noise, so it's not the same. It's not the same. But I'll have to pop that. I'll pop down to the Goodwood next year and see the classics.
Sort out an outfit, because you've got to fit in, you've got to dress up. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic event, it really is.
Oh, excellent. Now that's all we've got pretty much time for in terms of the main part of the interview. So I'm gonna go into the bonus questions. So I hope you are ready for this, Nadine.
I don't know. I'll give it a
go. Okay, so this first question is the question that I judge all my guests on. I'm hoping for the right answer. So here we go. Drum roll. Now, Nadine, does pineapple belong on a pizza? Yes or no?
No.
Thank God. That is the right answer. That is the right answer. So far, I think this is our 17th episode, and we've had 2 people say pineapple belongs on a pizza. I've almost had to throw them off throughout the podcast and said, cancel it. We're not airing it anymore.
They've obviously never been to Italy. You go to Italy, they would never put pineapple on a pizza.
They would never allow that. Exactly. So, yeah. So that's a 2 thumbs up from me.
One. That's all right.
Yeah. Now, the second one is a very interesting one. If you could throw a dinner party this weekend, and you can invite 4 guests, dead or alive, could be famous or not famous, who would you invite and why?
Gosh. I'd have to invite Freddie Mercury, because he's my all-time favourite singer. And his birthday is very close to mine, so we're both Virgos. So I never got the chance to see him live. My husband did, which annoys me every time he mentions it. So definitely Freddie would have to be there. I think he would make a dinner party. I think just him on his own would make a dinner party, to be perfectly honest. So he'd be probably number 1. Number 2, Murray Walker. I have met Murray, but I think he's got so many stories that he never got to tell. No matter how much he talked, I could listen to his voice all day, just commentating on anything. He could commentate on us eating dinner, and it would sound amazing. So I'd have Murray there, definitely. I want to say someone like Richard Branson, because I'm always impressed with the fact that he's one of those people who failed most of his exams at school, but look where he is. So he's one of those people where you kind of go, look where he got to, and he did rubbish at school, so why can't you? So that comes back to why can't you do that? Because somebody like Richard Branson did, and look at him now. And I'm trying to think of a 4th one. I want to go a bit obscure. I'd actually like to meet Barack Obama. I
Oh,
always thought he was a top president in the US. Um, I just liked the way he dealt with everything. And yeah, I think he'd be a really interesting person to have at a dinner party.
oh.
So going through that lineup, Freddie Mercury, Murray Walker, Richard Branson, and Barack Obama, that's an elite lineup there.
Yeah,
And I think it would be dominated by Murray Walker's stories of F1, and obviously Richard Branson being he used to have a team in there.
it
That that,
did.
that would
Yeah.
be an exciting dinner party, to be fair. And now the final question: if you could have any superpower, which one would you have?
Gosh. Um, that's a really difficult one. um, it's not one that people would say, but um, to give people confidence,
Oh,
Oh,
that's
because
interesting.
it may not sound like a superpower, but I think to have that ability, whatever that is, that gives that person the confidence to actually be able to do that, no matter what, to anybody, to everyone, to make them be the person that they want to be and do what they want to do, to have the confidence to do it, that would just be fantastic for me.
Oh, wow.
and this is an extra additional bonus question, just for any young girls listening to the podcast, or young women, or even men as well. You know, in terms of your confidence to be able to, not let anything stop you from pursuing your goals, where did that stem from?
I think my dad, going back to my dad, who is still with us, just so that people don't think he's passed on yet. Um, he he was always one of those people who, it didn't matter what I did at school, I could have done better. So he kind of set the bar so high, that it wasn't that I needed to prove it to him. It was just that he's like, well, why did you only get 9 out of 10? Why didn't you get 10? And I was like, yeah, why? So it's like, okay, well, next time I'm going to do better. So any time that a barrier kind of put in front of me, I remember at work one time, um, I thought I'd done quite well for the year, thought I'd had a reasonable year, and then got the most awful um, rating from my boss at the end of the year, to the point where I was like, what did I do? I really don't know why I deserve this. I spoke to HR, I had all those conversations thinking, wow, I thought I'd done quite well. And I obviously have got it completely wrong if he thinks I'm that rubbish. Um, the following year, I had a different boss, and my new boss gave me the best rating he's ever given to anybody ever. So I went from rubbish to really good. And he knew what had happened in the previous year. And he said, you had two options. He said one was to walk away and say, I'm not working for these people anymore. I don't like this. He said, or you could say, I'll show you. And that's what I did. And he recognized that and said, you weren't going to give up. You're a fighter. You're not going to take somebody telling you you can't do something. You're going to make sure that you will, whatever it takes, you will do whatever you can to turn that person around and say, yes, I can. You were wrong. So I think that's where my confidence comes from, is that ability to kind of section it off and go, yeah, okay, I was hurt, and yeah, I felt really rubbish at the time, but to then go, well, okay, so what could I do better? And I'll show them that I can do it better, and I will be better, and as a better person. And I won't ever do that to one of my employees, ever. And I never have. So it's like learning in both ways. So learning what I can from that, as well as how I would use that going forward. So even if I've had somebody who's not very good, what they're doing, I've told them. I've not waited till the end of the year and told them that they need to do things. I've helped them along the way. I would hate for somebody to have that happen to them the way that happened to me. So I would definitely not do it to them.
Really inspiring.
Yeah, good signs of leadership and management, and emphasize. Me and Blair always speak about it on the podcast. It's definitely the goal is to be persistent, be determined, be resilient, and almost not take no for an answer. Just continuously learn, so I'm going to achieve it, no matter what. So, Nadine, if people wanted to follow you on social media or wants to keep up to date, or maybe even reach out, what's some of the best ways to get in contact with you?
Okay, so I am on social media. I'm Chair in Orange on Twitter, if people want to follow me that way. I am Nadine Lewis everywhere else. They'll find me. My photo is quite obvious. It's the photo of me presenting to Sergio, so I'm easy to find on lots of social media, on Facebook and Instagram particularly. But if people are interested in marshalling, then our website, marshals with one L .co.uk is the place to go, and at BMMC UK across all social media channels we'll find our club, and people will be more than willing to help get others involved in volunteering in whatever aspect you want to get involved in.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Nadine, for being a guest on the See Me Be Me podcast, and definitely we'll keep in contact, and I think I'm going to have to come and volunteer, especially maybe even just for Goodwood as well.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been great. Really great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Blair,
Nile,
what did you think about today's guest, Nadine Lewis?
Nadine, the story was interesting. I mean, when she started out, she started out saying that she never really had, let's say, a particular, I guess, passion for motorsport. It was more something that she was watching like Formula One on weekends with a father, and it's almost that kind of interest in like Formula One watching the weekends is what essentially got her involved in her first journey as a marshal, starting out at Oulton Park in 1997. So it's almost something like a hobby that almost turned into a career path, and she's a true trailblazer for females taking part in motorsport, in particular in marshalling. So it's really interesting stories, and just to hear Nadine's background and how she got started.
And it's interesting to see that, from where she started out as marshalling, she's been able to progress in various different stages, to going from doing the marshalling to doing recruitment and helping to bring new wave of talent or new wave of marshals to come in and work within the industry and get chances to get involved, to being obviously membership secretary, and now becoming the chair of the BRS CC. So it's great to see the progression that Nadine has been able to rise up to. But also as well, it's just to see how the skills that she's learned in her work life as a logistics, working in logistics, has been able to translate into a career working as a marshal, and vice versa. There's different skills, which were great. And it's one of the things. There's a couple of things that she said. The three core things that essentials is, one was to try new things, to not forget where you came from. So don't forget where you started, because then you can be almost complacent. And it's just to remember those core values, those core roots.
One thing I took up as well is it's similar to what one of our past guests, Callum Nicholas, was saying in terms of getting involved in motorsport. That there's so many different forms of motorsport out there. There's like karting, there's rallying, there's hill sprints or whatever. But each of these different sort of activities, there'll always be opportunities for marshalling. So it's sometimes people almost think for motorsport Formula One's the be all end all, but there's so many different like pathways to get involved in this industry, and you just have to go out there, go to your local racetracks, go to your local networking events within motorsport, and you never know what jobs or career paths or opportunities will come from just volunteering your time and being a track marshal.
It's all about just trying new things. Don't put the blinkers on and just say, "Oh no, I'm not going to go and do that because I wanted to go and do X." Say try a variety, try rallying, try race cars. Don't be put off by certain things because you may end up actually enjoying it. So yeah, don't be put off on different things, and look where it could lead you. It could lead you up to working in marshalling at Formula One and getting on the podium and presenting a trophy to one of the racing drivers. So yeah. And yeah, just like I said, I think the main thing or the main takeaway was just like, yeah, put yourself out there. It's an open world marshalling. The barrier, there's barely any barriers to entry. Anyone can join and anyone can participate. So why would you not want to?
Never a shortage of volunteers. So
yeah, and it's also to hear talk about how it's great to see that there are more women coming into doing marshalling, and it's the landscape has changed from when Nadine first started, which is always great to see, and then hopefully that whole thing around the EDI continues. What else did you find that was quite good about this podcast?
No, it's exactly what just we've been talking about. It's just those factors. Put yourself out there, and it's just as well with Nadine was just saying in regards to putting yourself out there, getting those opportunities, and just changing like the mindsets, because I think there's a lot of people that just have this idea of motorsport. All it's about is the car and the driver, but they don't see the people who you have to put in place, like the marshals, to keep these sorts of events safe and keep things in check. Because at the end of the day, without key people involved in motor races, such as your marshals, race day events won't go ahead. They're almost like the not unknown, but they're not known about heroes of the events, because you've got say like injuries and whatnot. You need the people to like wave the flags and make sure that the drivers are okay. All the safety aspects are covered from your motorsport and your racing events, and the fact that they do it all volunteering and doing it for free. All these great and epic races from the past, whether it's on your Formula Ones, your British touring cars, or any of these motorsport events, they would not be possible without these individuals giving up their time to make sure safety is in check.
No, they are the key ingredient. It's all well, you've got the drivers and you've got the racing cars and you've got the teams, but without people giving up their time to marshal and volunteer, motorsports in this country can't go ahead. So these people are even more pivotal than people like the drivers, because you can have so many drivers, but there's no one there to marshal. Then yeah, like I said, the epic sport doesn't go ahead. So it's a great episode to have Nadine on here, and make sure to go and follow her on her social media. She plugged it in this episode, and keep up to date with all the great stuff that's happening. But if you like this episode, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. The Blair Project is on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at The Blair Project. And we are on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Get Me Motoring. That's all we've got time for today. Join us on another exciting episode. And for now, take care. Peace.
So, guys.
If you've liked today's episode, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. The Blair Project is on all major social media platforms, including Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube at The Blair Project. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Yes, we are on TikTok at Get Me Motoring. If you'd like to follow myself individually, I am on Instagram at Nile Henry and also LinkedIn at Nile Henry as well.
And if you want to follow myself, I'm on Instagram as BlairHenry_97 and also on LinkedIn as just Blair Henry.
So, We look forward to having you on the next episode. So stay tuned. Take care.
Until next time.